to recover from running, especially for marathon training. And I really like the U.S. Soccer Federation's definition of what is recovery. It's usually the period between the end of one practice and the start of another. Sleep, nutrition, and hydration should be the main foundation of an athlete's recovery to counteract fatigue, reduce risk of injury, and help drive the body's adaptive response to exercise. There's a variety of recovery interventions available by an athlete to help boost their recovery process. And we're going to dive into all the different options available. So before we start, I just wanted to go over some of the key factors that can affect an athlete's recovery. The amount of practice and games, duration, and quantity play a big factor. The amount of sleep you're getting, the quality of your nutrition and hydration, how far are you traveling, and what way are you flying? Are you in a car? There are major differences in how people react to methods of transportation. Recovery interventions. What are you using at home? Are you using one of the Theraguns? Are you constantly stretching? Are you icing? Environmental conditions. Heat is obviously a major role in recovery for runners. Psychological factors, genetics, social life, and employment or school. So everything really plays a factor in how you recover.
Hey, Jamie.
Why does recovery matter more for marathoners? Because marathon runners are more often observed to have lower energy intake, specifically lower levels of carbohydrates, fiber, vitamins D3, B6, and D, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. And I went over REDS in one of my previous lectures, residency energy deficiency syndrome in sports. It long-term decreases protein synthesis, insulin levels, glucose utilization, mobilization of fat stores, metabolic rate, and the production of growth hormone. And typically, cortisol levels are elevated when in a prolonged state of low energy availability.
So what does that mean, like cortisone levels?
So cortisone is, if your cortisol levels are frequently high, it can lead to weight gain, inability to properly regulate your hydration status. When you're stressed, your cortisol levels go up.
Oh, okay. So intensity would be that too?
Mm-hmm. I really liked this pyramid because what first caught me was fats at the top, and I really appreciated that. So clearly, what's at the base of your pyramid has to be the most important. Sleep and downtime. Zach went over sleep in depth last week, but what really matters is quality, quantity, and routine. And I didn't really go too much into the whole downtime relaxation, but we will address that one day. Nutrition and hydration I'm going to go into briefly, but I want to leave more for Kayla to have a more in-depth discussion on nutrition in a few weeks.
That's awesome.
Water immersion or ice bath or warm bath or combination of the two, compression, massage, things that there's not as much evidence out there for, like cryotherapy and vibration, and then at the top, fats, things that will continually come in and out of our lives. People trying to sell you things on Instagram. So, what can you control? How can you improve your recovery? Sleep, we went over this in depth last week. It's an integral part of the recovery and adaptive process that occur between bouts of exercise. Studies suggest that increased sleep duration and improved sleep quality is associated with improved athletic performance and reduced risk of injury and illness. And like we went over last week, quality of sleep matters. You want it to be in a dark, quiet, and preferably colder room. I think it was somewhere between 60,
64, 68. Generally get it in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. Quantity, that varies person to person. I know adults, the range is 7 to 10 hours. I lean a little more towards the 10. My boyfriend leans towards the 5. Everyone has their own norm.
They're balanced.
Yes, it's more about consistency.
I'd say like my question would be like how like is it more important to be a morning person or an evening person with your sleep routine? Is it really that important to get up early in the morning and get your workout in, or is it important just to sleep in,
So
get your workout done in the evening or afternoon?
yeah, so I forget who asked the question last week, but it actually matters like which one you are. So for example, I am not really a morning person, but my schedule makes it so that if I work out in the morning, my day just flows better.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of going against my own grain.
Correct.
Whereas if I had my optimal, I would work out in the afternoon, at night, something like that.
Uh-huh.
Or someone who is a morning person, it would be really good on them to get up and run at 5 a.m. or something like that. So you want to kind of match whoever you are, morning or later in the day person,
Yeah.
if that's possible for you.
I just wonder because it's just like, you try to get the REM sleep, get the levels and everything. It's just like, are you really a morning person? Or are you really? It just counts like mentally. I feel like because
From what you said last week, sometimes people you either are a morning person or
Yeah.
you're a night owl.
Yeah, there is a sweet spot. I know Alex talks about it with our concussion people. Like 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. is a really good chunk where you get great sleep. However, if you're more of that night out, that might actually vary later.
So would you, people that have concussions, that's where you gotta watch them?
Yeah,
So they will wake up?
No, not necessarily. So
Okay.
that just still with them, you want to still think about are you morning, are you an evening person?
Okay. Thank you, Megan.
Of
Sorry.
course. Next, nutrition is a key factor in your recovery. And I'm specifically going to talk about nutrition post-exercise because I'm going to leave more for Kayla to get into later. But post-workout phase requires quick amino acid absorption, muscle protein synthesis, repair of damaged muscle fibers and tendon, and control of the inflammation within the muscle tissue and the oxidative stress on your cells. So some things that you can be taking daily are vitamin C and vitamin E, beta-carotene, and selenium are all known to alleviate oxidative damage within your cells. And I got some more specifics from the Mediators of Inflammation Journal, and they suggest that endurance athletes take in at least 45 calories per kilogram per day, carbohydrates between 8 to 12 grams per kilogram, fiber at least 25 grams, and calcium 1,000 milligrams, and electrolytes. This one confused me a little bit. I struggled to understand it, but 1.7 to 2.9 grams of salt during prolonged bout of exercise. That's a wide range. I don't know if you have more. You have.
Well, with salt, I mean, one thing just to look at those numbers, if you add the zeros, think about what is recommended by doctors and in reading your labels, that's a lot higher than that. So if you're exercising, if you just drink water or pick a Gatorade where it's really sugary but not as much sodium, that doesn't help that much. So this is saying you need something with salt because then your water matters. It's actually being applied to everything.
What would you consider prolonged?
That's a great question.
Their definition of prolonged exercise was half marathon, and they went even into ultra marathons.
So they mean at least every hour.
So an endurance athlete.
Endurance athletes working out consistently for every hour. Because my rule of thumb has always been 45 to 50 minutes taking sodium. But you ever hear people say, I never need anything when I run a half marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So are there people who literally don't need anything?
So the answer is kind of yes. But
Yeah,
kind
maybe
of
without
no.
more
They have
balance.
enough
Yeah.
support, yeah.
Some of it is you've trained yourself not to need it, but some of it too is maybe the person who just says that, if you gave them sodium, they'd actually do better. So it's a little bit of both.
Right, some people just don't know, and because they do okay, they just don't think
Yeah.
they need it. But if you're doing endurance, you're definitely going to run out of electrolytes, and you should be drinking water. Therefore, you're getting rid of more electrolytes. So you do have to supplement. I used to take salt pills. By the time you get to 3-4 hours, I'm taking salt pills, and it really makes a difference.
In the post-workout, you say muscle protein, amino acid absorption. So I heard that when we're running like hard and endurance, we're tearing muscle fiber.
Yep.
So what is the argument with plant-based protein versus muscle protein? Because when I think about protein, like within the first hour, I think about like whey protein or those BCAAs, amino acids. And when I was reading, like a plant protein doesn't have the complete amino acid blockchain that you need.
No,
Yeah.
that's
So
exactly what I was
how
gonna
are there
say.
vegans who say that they never need meat protein in order to recover? So I'm just trying to get because if
Why
there's
don't
It's
you
a
know
good
what's in
conversation, I like this.
No,
I mean,
because
I
like
don't-
It's
No,
true.
it's a great
there's a
conversation.
lot of on
Yeah.
Instagram there's a lot of vegan
Okay.
people.
A lot of information out
But
there.
what I'm
yeah.
trying to figure out is like, because I was reading that, because I was like thinking about like how much damage am I doing to my body when I'm like doing like a marathon or those
Mhm.
ultras or those really high endurance. So because I was reading like during the COVID time they said just be careful when you're finishing a marathon, your immune system may be down,
Mhm.
your muscle fibers are getting damaged, so you just need to stay away from people just to recover.
Mhm.
And they were like, a good source of protein would help recover. But then I'm like,
I think they see it more from the side of the athlete already being vegan. What do you do as a vegan person to replenish as much as you can, rather than thinking of, oh well, being vegan is good and do this because vegans. It's more from the side of being sensitive to people who are vegan, who are saying, hey, don't tell me to change to eat meat now because of this.
Can they
I
take
know I can
supplements?
replace it. And the answer is not. They have to be very creative because there's not a lot of sources of protein, and there are some, but not as much as they have to be just very creative to be able to maintain healthy and replenish as much as they need to. But there are many ways to do it. So be very good at it.
Go ahead, Stan.
Does a sodium bicarb help? When creating when you take it, so your body doesn't become too acidic. You want to be producing a lot of lactic acid
Mhm.
as much. Would that help?
Probably, yeah.
Probably.
I'm not very expert at it, other than what I've done as I've done triathlons. And good thing to do is to have a test done. When by the time you get to be more of an athlete, you want to continue at that level, then you need an endocrinologist, you need a doctor. Let's check the levels. How bad is it? And the way I did it was I went to I got my doctor to test it for me because he didn't know. So I said, why don't we just find out? And so we did the regular test at baseline, and then after a long run, I came back and said, okay, let's see how bad things are. And then we were able to say, okay, these things you have to supplement more. Then we did a retest, and I got them really crazy because I wanted to use them for my own purpose of testing. So I got another test after that to see if what I did in the stuff that I was taking was also making a difference, because you don't know, sometimes your body doesn't absorb as much as somebody else. And in fact, it did make a difference. So then I got my own formula of what to do. It's not for everybody, it's the same.
This next graphic is very detailed. I'm not going to read it, but
Oh, man.
the information that I got the previous slide from, I saw this graph at the end and I was like, wow, that is very detailed, but I like how specific it is. That 65% CHO carbohydrates, 13% protein, and 22% fat. That's your goal intake for the day. And if you have any questions, what do I do post-race? What do I do pre-race? What am I doing 2 days before the race? They have a wonderful answer for that in all these bubbles. So if you guys want
You want
to take a picture of that, yeah, that's what I intended.
Put that on
Take
your
pictures of
smartphone.
that.
I would take a photo of that. I'm gonna take a photo of it.
it's not like Ray's gonna read it all out there.
I was not willing to read this one out to you guys.
And you guys are confused.
I just like the information.
I like it.
Without retyping it all up.
If you have any pre-existing conditions, if you have any diabetes, anything like that, imbalances in your hormones, especially thyroid, it's just basic, but do be specific about your own situation with your doctor so that you don't end up, having an issue later as well. That's just a guideline.
So water and electrolyte intake. For endurance athletes, you want to limit your sweating to just 2 to 3% of your body mass. Any more than that, and you're at significant risk for dehydration. And if you then try to drink a lot of water after that, you're at risk for hyponatremia, which can cause some dizziness and confusion, and no one wants to see that. So you want to be looking for sports drinks with potassium, sodium, and calcium, and magnesium as well. Just forgot to write that. But I found an interesting study that looked at people after marathons, those who cramped up in their legs and those who did not cramp up. They looked at specific biomarkers, and there were significantly higher levels of muscle damage biomarkers found in patients suffering from muscle cramps, both immediately after a race and 24 hours. But they found that runners who included strength conditioning in their training had less muscle damage biomarkers, and they were less likely to suffer from muscle cramping. So not related to water or electrolyte intake, but I found that very interesting when I was looking for information. Compression. This is the only picture I could find on our prehab site with the compression moves. So external pneumatic compression or recovery moves have been found to reduce muscle soreness and attenuate reductions in flexibility after exercise. Improvements in run time to exhaustion for those wearing compression socks versus those without have been found in studies. At most, you want the compression of the compression socks to be 30 to 40.
It's like mercury or something.
Yeah,
It's mercury,
I
it's
always
compression.
forget that. But sometimes you'll see like a European class compression and it's class 3. That is what you want to be aiming for. I know there are compression socks out there that are lower, like 15 to 20 millimeters per mercury, but 30 to 40 is that sweet spot to really see some benefits in pain levels. Foam rolling I also classified under compression. Studies have shown that foam rolling pre-run demonstrated short-term improvements in flexibility without decreasing muscle performance. And foam rolling post-run demonstrated improvements in recovery rate, speed and strength, as well as alleviated muscle soreness. Water immersion, or ice baths, or contrast bathing. What occurs at the cellular level is when you enter an ice bath, the extravascular fluid that moved into your muscle tissue then moves back into the vascular system due to these pressure changes, and it reduces the muscle volume and the soft tissue inflammation, thus increasing the cardiac output, improving blood flow to throughout everywhere in your body, greater nutrient distribution to your cells, and a quicker waste transport system. And there's a potential psychological benefit to ice baths. It was found to reduce anxiety, surprisingly enough.
Ice bath, because like your body's going through shock, so you have to get like some stimulation.
I think
Calm
it was
your
a
body
stimulation thing. It just kind of.
Does that have to be water version, or what about those ice cryo chambers that you like, those walk-in chambers of
There's
cryo?
not as much. There's not
There's
as
not
much
enough
evidence.
research.
Yeah, there's not as much evidence supporting the cryotherapy chambers, but there is evidence supporting ice baths.
Jumping into a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Better? Okay.
And then massage. Unfortunately, studies have failed to find evidence that sports massage directly improves your performance in terms of strength, jump, sprint, or endurance. I know.
Feels good.
It
Yeah,
feels great. It feels great.
But emotionally, it feels good.
Emotionally, it's wonderful. There were statistically significant improvements in flexibility, reduction in pain, and delayed onset muscle soreness by 15%, which is significant. There's evidence that massage reduces your heart rate variability and your cortisol levels, but trigger point therapy has been found to increase people's blood pressure because that's a bit more painful of a massage treatment. But overall, patients who underwent massage had a better perceived recovery, and they had higher blood lactate levels. So there's a hypothesis that people who are saying, I felt great, were expending more energy during the race. So jury's still out on that. But they were able to determine that an active recovery is more effective at reducing your blood lactate levels than just massage. So going out and getting that shakeout run is definitely more effective than going to get a massage. I hate that I have to tell you that because it's the last thing I want to do, but yes. Questions?
Whose dog is that?
Mine.
Cute. Question?
So relaxing massage, is
Yeah.
that beneficial versus the painful massage? The one that's got you like jumping off the table sometimes?
It's just, the effects are minimal. It short term, it affects flexibility and pain levels, but there is no correlation.
Because your muscle
to
gets
improvement
tense
in
because
performance.
your body's preparing for this person to do damage to you. You know, so it's like you're kind of tightening the muscle. You don't want to tighten the muscle because if you tighten the muscle can't relax. So it's, you know. That's why they keep telling you to relax, but you can't relax because you're expecting pain because
Punish.
the previous touching, like, okay, I don't know you, but okay, you're touching me where I'm not used to being touched. That's alright.
Have a hot bath, because I was pretty
What?
hot bath.
Hot bath.
Or a hot bath. Isn't it?
I'm an Epsom salt bather, does that benefit?
Yeah,
Like
any
Epsom salt bath?
benefits or negatives?
I didn't find any negatives. It was the same as the water immersion. It just,
It's
the
magnesium
prayer.
and the Epsom salt, so
Yeah.
for dehydration,
Mhm.
you can absorb a bit.
Yeah, it's definitely beneficial. I don't think there are any cons to it. That's a great way to combine the, what you're feeling in the muscles and, refreshing your electrolytes at the same time.
Yeah, for the effect of increasing circulation, either way is fine because the body's trying to dissipate the rapid change in temperature. And the only way to do that is by bringing more circulation so that the effect will be the
So
same.
how about an ice plunge and a hot bath and an ice plunge and a hot bath?
That's
Do it.
the contrast.
Do it. Do it.
Yeah, it's all about
Do it. I'm
increasing
down.
the circulation, increasing the blood flow and nutrients.
I'm just trying to figure out how am I going to
There's
take
only
the
one
ice out of
place-
the tub, heat the tub up,
There's
put
only
the
one
ice
place
back
I
in
know
the
that I
tub,
can do
heat
that.
the tub.
There's one place in New York City that offers it, but the place is so sleazy.
Bathhouse in Williamsburg. if
No,
you
no,
do
the one
it
on
in
Fulton
Boston.
Street, it's the old school like Russian Turkish bathhouse.
I know, right?
But they actually have the ice plunge, and then they have a, and a
You
hot
get some
bath.
floating hairs in the water, you're like, ooh.
Ice plunge is
I just
literally
collected
this,
a
like,
hair on my
cylinder thing,
face.
and I just jumped in. It's like,
It's
the most effective.
Yeah.
I think
Mm.
it's more hygienic.
Yeah.
Oh, one of my teammates got MRSA.
Well, guys, Megan, thank you so much. Tonight we are doing in and outs.
what does that mean?
So in and out, it's like threshold. We're building threshold. We're building pain tolerance, and it's going to make running marathon pace easy. It's really going to help you find your marathon pace. So marathon pace is supposed to be 75 to 78% effort during race day. So that's where you're trying to put your happy medium. These ends are going to be at 5K pace effort, so you're going to do 3 minutes at an end pace. So you're going to run hard at 5K pace at 3 minutes. Then we're going to go to a 2 minute. You're going to do a 2 minute at marathon pace. So when you get to a 2 minute, you should be like, sorry, the heart rate starts going back down. You're able to catch your breath, but you're still putting effort, but you're not like completely going to a jog. You're running, but you're not like racing pace. And then when that next 2 minutes goes by, 3 minutes again, race pace, pop it, fast, 3 minutes, go back. And then when you find that pace where you're finding the out period, that should start feeling comfortable where that's your marathon pace.
So is this like a fartlek?
It's like a fartlek, but the fartlek you get rest. You're not getting rest in this. You're getting a high effort to medium effort. High effort, we're trying to make the medium effort feel easy. Because eventually, when you're running a marathon at race pace and you should be tired when you get to about 24 miles, you should simulate that, and that should be how you're feeling during mile 16 to all the way to 24 to 26. Because,
I'm here 2 weeks.
yeah. And what we're going to do is we're going to run from here. We're going to go to 72nd Street. We're going to stretch on top of the bridge over there, right by the tourist crossing, I would say. We're going to stretch
West
there.
side?
No, we're staying in the middle, 72nd. We're going to start. We'll go down the bridge. You're gonna start, you're gonna go down the bridge, take a left, I'm gonna give you the Cat Hill for the first part, to get that out of the way. You're gonna go up Cat Hill, all the way down, up east side, all the way to the transverse, and you're gonna come around, get the Three Sisters going down, and a downhill finish to the bridge. Guys, got it?
It's
It's
the
the,
middle
it's the middle loop.
The middle loop.
It's the middle loop.
Okay.
How many sessions is 3, 2, 3,
You're
2,
3 on,
2
2 off, and it's 10. 10 threes. 10
Do the
threes.
middle loop.
Yeah, middle loop. We're going to do the whole middle loop. So you will have 4 miles. And then warm up, mile, 4 miles, mile back. That should be about 6.
Jerry Miles back.
Alright? So we're going to head out like at 7, 11. So if you need to go to the restroom or grab a drink
Or change.
or change, we're going to get a photo out here. And
Jerry Miles, 6 people, 7 people.